Go. Travis Burch. Dude, there is a thing on the fire department where everybody has opinions about everybody, and generally it's always mixed. You are a guy that I have never heard a negative thing about.
That's good to know.
Yeah. I mean, it's rare that you find somebody and, usually you find one guy that has one opinion and another guy that has another. Every time you get brought up in conversation, dude, everybody just says the most amazing things about you and how stand-up of a guy you are and how much knowledge you have in poker. I don't know. You said you listened to the Eric White a little bit but dude, I've been playing poker since I would borrow my mom's credit card when I was, 12, 13 and played on Bovada back in the day. And I've just been such a huge fan. I stalked your old Instagram a little bit. You were playing PLO back in 2017.
Oh, at least.
That's awesome, man. I didn't even know those games existed until a few years ago, and now that's what everybody's playing is PLO.
Yep. Yeah, I like to consider poker. If you just play Hold'em, you're kind of just a card player. And the more games you know, the more games you are actually a poker player. So, I used to always dabble. I mean, back in the Poker Stars days, I used to play the 8-game mix games and stuff like that on there. So, matter of fact, my oldest daughter, that's now 23, was sitting on my lap and won an 8-game mix tournament against a bunch of buddies of mine on Poker Stars. And we had, set up a 2-table private game. And she had won the tournament playing on my lap. I let her play every transaction, and I got text messages afterwards, and they were like, how in the heck you played it so different? I'm like, because I wasn't playing.
Oh, what year was that?
Shoot, 2005, 2006, 7, something like that.
Wow. Does she still play?
No.
How many kids do you have?
4.
Do any of them play?
I think my youngest is going to get into it because he's starting to sit on my lap when I'm tinkering online, playing some on the sweepstakes sites and stuff. But
yeah, so he's younger then.
Yeah, he's 8.
Yeah, it's one of those things you almost got to be a little bit careful about.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, poker's brought me a lot of joy, right? It's the networking, the business connections that I've made. Heck, I wouldn't even be in our K-Guard business, the leaf-free gutter business that I own. I wouldn't even be in that business probably if it wasn't for one person that actually just passed away last week, Mike Fasoni. He's a staple in the poker community, especially in the Omaha games, Omaha High-Low and all that, the big limit games and PLO. He just passed away, but when we first opened our business, he sat down with me and Carter, who was a high-stakes PLO player and no-limit grinder back in the day. That's how we met. We opened our business together, and he sat down with us. He had written a book, owned Fasoni and Partners Marketing Group here in Westport, and sat down with us and was like, hey, not going to charge you anything. And he just sat down and went through our business plan with us and corrected things that we had leaks in and zero cost.
Wow.
So there's some really good people in poker.
Oh, rest in peace to that gentleman.
Yeah,
man.
he was awesome.
Yeah. One of the reasons I brought you here is you're doing something really interesting right now with Hollywood Casino, which is on the Kansas side.
Yep.
You've kind of got to this point where you can play poker tournament or cash now any hour of the day with you introducing daytime tournaments, and we'll get to that. But, man, how in the world did you get into poker?
Man, probably thinking back to 9, 10 years old. Every Thanksgiving, my grandpa would show up, whether we had it at my parents' house or if it was at my grandpa's house, because the later years we had it at their house quite a bit. But he'd show up with a coffee can full of quarters, nickels, dimes, and we played every holiday. Christmas Eve was my dad's side of the family's dinner, right? And then Thanksgiving, we always had it at my dad's side. And they'd play all the games, 5-card draw, high Chicago, low Chicago, all that fun stuff. And I remember making $10 the first time I played. And then my grandma on my mom's side and grandpa, they were kind of like the slot players, right? And occasional blackjack and stuff like that. My Uncle Bill. And so I just kind of was always infatuated with it because I got taken to Circus at 12 years old in Vegas with my aunt. And so between poker, gambling, slots, stuff like that, I was just kind of always attracted to the lights and glamour. And then obviously Chris Moneymaker, set the world on fire on ESPN with the perfect name.
Yeah, I still think that name has to be fake, right?
If you could fix something, that's the perfect name to choose, right?
Yeah.
Moneymaker, WSOP, win the main event.
Well, they say things about doctors that is a big conspiracy. There's a orthosurgeon here named Dr. Hand, and you're like, I don't know, man. Let's see your birth certificate on that. Is Circus the one that has slots of fun in it?
It's the one that has lots of fun out front, yep.
Oh, I think they still have a couple of the old coin games left.
Oh, I guarantee they do.
I'd love to go down there. I've been to Vegas probably 5 or 6 times. I've never played at the Slots of Fun.
Me neither.
Did you see that Poker Palace is rebranding out there?
Really?
Do you know anything about that?
Huh.
Poker Palace is like this rundown. It's off the strip. I think it's a few miles north, but they'd run like $10 tournaments.
Huh.
Kind of neat.
Never been there. I know Eric brought it up in the podcast. I used to play at Bill's Gambling Hall when I worked the series out there, and I could have swore it was 50-cent dollar or 25, 50 cent or something. I know Eric talked about it, but it was so cheap. You can go in there, buy 20, 40 bucks and play cash all night. And I remember many times walking back across towards the Rio because there was no Uber really running back then, and had a lot of fun nights.
Yeah, poker's brought me a lot of joy too.
Mm-hmm.
I love the game, but now I was telling Eric, I was playing so much that it started to feel taxing, and I knew it was time to probably take a break.
Yep.
What is Chicago?
It was I can't even honestly remember. If I remember right, High Chicago was like the highest spade in your hand, and Low Chicago, I think, was the lowest spade in your hand, or something like that. I haven't played it since probably I was, under 14 years old.
So did your immediate family play a lot of cards too?
Not really. My mom and dad have never been a gambler. My mom will maybe put $20 in a slot machine if she goes out of town to Vegas or whatnot, but my dad's kind of against it. He's always enjoyed watching it on TV, though. Like, he'll watch high stakes poker. If I was, a couple times I had to move back in when I was young, we'd watch high stakes poker and stuff like that together. And he always kind of seemed like he enjoyed it, but I don't think he's ever the kind that would ever take risk. We would play the Thanksgiving game, obviously, but he's never been a big risk taker.
401k type of guy rather than a
pension, post office type guy. Yeah.
My dad's the same way. He never gets it. I'll send him pictures of me in Vegas playing, and he'll be like, "Come on, how much you lose?" I'm like, "It's only 200." He's like, "What? Are you kidding me?" So when do you think you started taking poker really seriously?
Probably right after the Moneymaker Effect.
2003?
2003, I think it was. Well, actually, it was right before that. I remember exactly why now. I used to manage for Valvoline Instant Oil Change, and we went out to Vegas every fall, I think it was, for a rewards trip. If you hit your last quarter goals or last half year goals, whatever, you got a free trip to Vegas. I was under 21, and I went and borrowed my buddy's driver's license.
Allegedly.
Yeah, no, I literally did. This actually came up on the new Real ID check. I freaked out because I thought I was in serious trouble. I borrowed his insurance card from work. I borrowed his car insurance, and birth certificate or social security number. Went to the DMV and was like, "Hey, I lost my wallet. Everything was in it but this stuff." And they let me reprint an ID without any question. Pay the $10, whatever it was back then. I got a copy of his information with my picture on it. Not even the same color eyes. That's how good they were back then. He had brown eyes. I don't have brown eyes. But went to Vegas. Ended up playing, I believe it was at the Golden Nugget downtown. It was either the Golden Nugget or where they used to hold the series of Horseshoe. One of those two places. I ended up walking by and was like, "Man, that looks like a lot of fun." I remember they had cash on the table. And,
oh, really?
Yeah, I thought that was normal.
How deep were they sitting? I
think it was, a 1-2 game or a 2-5 game, and people had straps of $100 bills behind them. And I remember saying "I'll put you all in." When I had ran it up to $800, and the guy was like, "You can't put me all in. I got all this," and just put the cash out, and I was like, "Oh shit!" And I was bluffing. So that was probably the first heart rate check in poker that I ever had. And I think I fell in love with that feeling.
Did you play in high school leading up to that moment? Did you guys have home games on the weekends?
No.
No?
I'm 44. I don't think anybody played poker when I was in high school yet.
Wow. So it was Hold'em when you went to Vegas that first time?
Hold'em was what I played that first time. And
you're working at Valvoline. Did you ever think that it was going to be an intrinsic part of your career in the future?
Never.
You didn't have hopes to go pro as a player?
Oh, I've always had those hopes. I've always wanted to. I actually played full-time for about a year and a half. God, what would that have been, 2006 to 2008? Poker was really easy then. I still think it's pretty easy, but it was a lot easier then. Nobody understood hand ranges or how to play deep post flop. It was pretty ABC poker back then, which you could, if you were one of the people that knew how to play 6, 7, 7, 8, 9, 8, 9, 9, 10 hands in certain positions and represent styles, and occasionally 3-bet light and not 3-bet with strong hands, and you actually had advanced theory back then. You just printed money. It was nothing to win 90-95% of your cash game sessions, and it was nothing to win tournaments back to back to back, or at least cash in them consistently.
How quickly after you had that first Vegas experience did you take any breaks in between going full?
No.
Played nonstop?
I went as soon as I turned 21, which was I think 5-6 months later. We started having home games immediately, and I turned 21 in I think 2003. 2003. And so when I turned 21, Isla Capri had a room here, Harris had a room, Ameristar had a room.
Yeah.
We didn't have Hollywood yet, and what was the other property here? Trying to think.
Harris.
It was Harris, Isla Capri, and Ameristar all had rooms.
Argosy?
Argosy didn't have a room yet. They were here. Yep.
Argosy had a room at one point?
They did. They didn't have a room at this point. I think they had a room when they were on the boat, and then when they went land, which actually the year that I was playing full time was the year they went land and built the 9-story hotel. I was in the pipe fitters union at that time, and we were, as soon as we would get rained out, Argosy had opened their room, and I would go over there and play all day. And then that's when I kind of fell in love with poker and got into poker dealing, because I was going to retirement parties in the pipe fitters union, and everybody's walking around all hunchbacked at these retirement parties. I was like, I don't want to look like that when I'm 65, 70 years old if I make it that long. And so I just started paying attention to how much the dealers were making. And they were making roughly $1 a hand back in 2006. And I was like, if you're fast, that's $35 an hour.
Yeah.
That's $70,000 a year. And back then you could get a full-time dealing job, which they don't really offer those anymore. But I was like, man, why am I going through pipe fitter school to make $70,000 a year? You know what I mean? Yeah. And look like a hunchback when I retire.
What year do you think you went full-time for that year?
That was summer of 2006. I think we finished the Argosy Hotel. I think was 2006, like September-ish. And I didn't get a job, I think, until April of 2008.
And what was your day-to-day hustle like?
I would literally get up. We had young kids at that time. I would get up. We'd get the kids to daycare, and then I would drive to Isla Capri. They used to have a $30 tournament, $40 tournament, $50 tournament, somewhere around there. It was less than 50 for sure. And they did Monday through Friday, I think at 10 a.m., 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. I remember I'd get the occasional speeding ticket just to get down there on time. Late reg wasn't a huge thing back then. You had to pretty much register on time or you weren't in. They only had a 5-table room, I think it was. And so I would like speed down there, play the tournament, and I had this literally figured out. If I didn't cash the tournament at Isla Capri, depending on what time it was, I either went to Ameristar or I went to Harris. And because the tournaments were slotted like 10, noon, and 2, or 10, 1, and 3, or something like that. And so you could literally play the entire day. I basically started as a tournament grinder. And then if I had a bad day and busted 2 tournaments or busted 1 tournament and couldn't make the other tournament, I would just play cash. Isla Capri had 4-8 with a full kill. They had 2-5 no limit occasionally, which those games were amazing. Harris had all the really good cash game options back then. And then Ameristar always had the 3-6, which I tried not to play because you can't really beat the rake. And then they'd occasionally have 2-5 going a couple days a week, so we'd play 2-5. 1-2 wasn't a really big hit back then. And then everybody kind of started realizing to get more people in the door, you had to spread a smaller stakes game.
So when you say beat the rake, explain to people what your calculation is in your head, or even on paper what you've read, on how you know you can put yourself in an advantageous position to beat the rake.
I mean, obviously I work in the casino. I don't want to, put a bad name on casino poker, but when some casinos over rakes, like if you go to Florida, you go to some parts of the country, touristy trap places usually have really high rake. Excuse me, sir. So Ameristar back then was doing 4 and 2, I think. So they were charging $6. 2 went to the promo because they had a really good bad beat jackpot. But the problem is there was always like $750,000 on the wall, or $400,000 on the wall is what I always called it, because that's money that was not in circulation in poker. It was back when big bad beats were a huge draw. Like people would come play because they had a chance to change their lifestyle by paying off a house or whatnot. And big bad beats were the draw, so they were taking $2 for the draw, but that money wasn't staying in circulation. So if you were playing 3-6 limit without a full kill, which luckily Ameristar always had a kill on there, so it was actually somewhat beatable, but a good limit player is going to beat the game by about 2 big bets per hour, right? So that's $12 an hour. That's with no rake. So you start factoring in the rake, you're literally playing all day for $5 to $6, $7 an hour, which back in the early 2000s, that wasn't that bad of a deal. As long as you had a job, you weren't going to pay your bills, but you could go play poker and have some fun. be a lot better if you're in Vegas and be able to drink for free and all that fun stuff. But
Yeah, I can't really drink in Vegas for free now.
it's hard.
It's hard, man. Some casinos are pretty good.
Yeah.
A lot of it's like timely. Like if you're willing to be patient and drink one beer an hour, you can make it. But
Yeah.
oh man,
The
it's
tip,
tough.
the trick there is tips.
Yeah,
But then you're not drinking for free anymore, right?
that's true. Yeah, because you notice like you give her the 10 or the 20 out of the gate, and they'll be quick. But then they're expecting $5 every time. And
Yep. I remember I was tipping $5 a drink down in Tunica when I used to drive to Tunica on every other weekend. We'd drive down to Tunica on a Friday and stay till Sunday because the games were so good. Back when the Grand was a thing, Harris had a property down there called the Grand, and it was just amazing. But I remember I used to literally tip the cocktail server $5 every time she came. And she would bring another drink without even asking for another $5. And you'd look back at your little table side cart and you'd have, 3 or 4 freaking Bloody Marys or whatever you're drinking that night. It's like, I can't drink all these. But for $5 a whack, she was bringing them.
yeah, I've definitely sold my water bottles to some impatient people.
Right.
Where was there a premier spot in the early 2000s in Kansas City, or did everybody float kind of how you were?
Harrah's was the place. It was 15, 16 tables back then. Ameristar was always the classy room.
Mm-hmm.
It was always mismanaged, in my opinion. They had some good tournaments, and they had good, 3-6 action. Obviously, the big bad beat, but it was always kind of mismanaged, in my opinion. Back in the day, Harrah's, Joe Puma had that room rocking. It was full spread. I would love to see if that could ever rebound. I think there's enough players here in Kansas City to have 2 to 3 rooms again. Right now, I feel like we have 2 rooms spread out between 3 places because of Cash Cows and Harrah's and us. I just, not to say anything really bad about Harrah's, I just feel like it's being mismanaged right now. And
Well, you spoke about having the $400,000 on the wall,
Mm-hmm.
and that was one of the big convictions that a lot of people had about Harrah's. Is for the last 5 or 6 years, everybody wanted to hit that cap 350,000 or 300,000 bad beat.
Yep.
Did they have those kind of promotions in early 2000s, or was only Ameristar doing that?
They both did. We at one point, I remember in 2008. We were full spread at Harrah's because I was actually at Harrah's in 2008. That's actually where, when I jumped off of playing full time, I got into dealing because I was like, hey, it's a guaranteed income and I can play. We still had Ameristar and we still had Argosy at that time, so there were still places for us to play. And we had a huge bad beat back then. I was still in table games, could not get up to the poker room. Just because I was a good mini box dealer, good high limit dealer, and unfortunately a guy named Patrick Chan was our VP or table games, whatever, supervisor, maintenance, or manager or whatever that overseed it, and he wouldn't let me go upstairs. Joe Puma, one of the greatest poker managers in Kansas City of all time, he wanted me to come upstairs. I had buddies that worked up there, and I just could not get up there in 2008, and that room was hopping. I remember I think I was making like $24, $25 an hour down in table games, and all the dealers upstairs were, making $1 a hand, and that room was full spread probably 4 days a week because they had $250,000 on the table plus a backup that was probably 150 to 175. But that was a draw back then. Bad beat jackpots were a draw now. I don't know if you realize, but the last bad beat at Harrah's got up to, I think, 350 capped or 300 capped or whatever it was. And I don't know if they ever got to 14 table full spread. And back then they used to have like 15, 16, 17 tables, maybe even 18. I think it was 16. But they pulled out a couple when they redesigned the room because the podium used to be right in the middle as soon as you walked in.
Was it still in that upper right corner?
Yeah, so the podium was right in the middle as soon as you walked in, and there used to be a couple more tables to the right. The table numbers are still numbered kind of the way they were. So there's like a couple tables missing if you notice, if you look around. But there's that big open space in the front when you first walk in, and there used to be a podium there, and then there used to be a couple tables down where the cage is now, basically.
So you went pretty nuclear playing full time for that year, and then did you have to take a break and slow down before you went into dealing?
No, I continued to play. I probably worked 30 to. I tried to EO as much as possible, which is a common term in the industry, which is called an early out list. If you're a good player or just a degenerate gambler, you sign the EO list until you need to work. So I tried to sign the EO list as much as I could, just enough to pay bills, and I was going through a divorce, so I paid my child support and all that fun stuff, and then I played the rest. Trying to remember where I was going with that.
We're going into dealing.
Oh, dealing, yeah. So I just literally just dealt enough to pay my bills and play poker. So I probably played poker 3 or 4 years, pretty much full time, and then I jumped on the circuit. I think it was in 2011. because me and Patrick had some, disagreements about me trying to go upstairs. And I remember him saying, "You're my best mini Bach dealer." And I was like, "So I'm getting punished for being good? This makes no sense." So I actually left Harris and went and traveled and dealt on the road for a couple years. And then in 2012, after the series, 11 or 12 after the series, I was like, man, I missed my daughter's birthday in June. And that phone call was one of the toughest things that I'd ever dealt with. I remember it was like a day where I'd just dealt a bracelet event with Tom Dwan and Phil Ivey and all these people at the final table. So I just remember being on the high of high and then calling home the next day to tell your daughter happy birthday and then just getting crushed. So I immediately made the decision to jump off the road and took a job at St. Louis, which wasn't close to Kansas City yet, but it was the closest I could get home. And so I would work 4 days there, drove home, spent 3 days here, drove back, worked 4 days there. Then I met my wife in St. Louis, and then we transferred to open Hollywood here.
So you were working at St. Louis until you took the job at Hollywood?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
How did K-Guard, just to segue real quick, how did that all fall into place?
That's a weird situation. So in 2014, I was kind of getting burnt out on poker. I'd played a lot. I'd was getting remarried, serious relationship. Wife had got pregnant with our second youngest, and my now wife. And so I was just kind of not to say forced out of playing poker full time, but poker was taking up a lot of time, right? And so when you work in poker and then you play poker all the time, that's all your wife thinks you do type situation. That's all your family thinks you do. So I kind of stepped away from poker on purpose and wanted to get into business. And I happened to be standing at the podium running the Monday tournament back when we used to get 140 players in a $65 tournament. And I remember seeing an ad from a friend saying, "Hey, our company's now hiring, pay 6 figures, sales, pretty much call your shots. As hard as you want to work is what you're going to make." And it was in the gutter industry. And I had sold windows and siding on the side for a guy that I used to play in a Monday night home game with. For Miracle Windows, I'd sold windows and siding for this guy on the side just for extra income. And I remember going, man, I was good at that. I'll be good at this. So I took the job. And that same week, I referred Carter, which was a poker player in the poker room. During my 2 weeks' notice, it might have been even my last shift. I was asked Carter. He had just graduated from KU with a marketing degree. We weren't even that good of friends yet. We were just kind of acquaintances, hung out a couple times. I said, "What are you going to do, man? You ever going to get a job?" And he goes, "No, I think I'm going to just go play poker full time." I said, "Man, it's a grind. I've done it." And he was like, "Yeah, but nobody wants to start me out with more than 45, 50 grand a year with my degree." He's like, "And I make more than that playing 1, 3, 2, 5, and 5 PLO." And I was like, "Okay, I understand." I said, "Man, you might want to go take an interview." And I gave him the card to the guy. And so he started 2 weeks after me. And we kind of treated sales with guttering for Leaf Guard like poker. We literally had a plan. If we both had a 9 a.m. sales appointment, whoever was out first would text saying, "Hey, I'm done with my customer. Call me when you're done." And then the person, once they were done with the second customer, would call. And we did that. So sometimes it was him getting done first. Sometimes it was me. We'd call each other, and we treated it like a poker tournament or a poker hand. What did you do? How did you overcome the ejection? What did the customer say here? What did you say in response? We treated it like a poker game, and it was a lot of fun. A year later, we saw an ad for K-Guard trying to open up a franchise here. And I sent it to Carter and was like, "Hey, you want to be my business partner?"
Nice. So you implemented gutter theory optimal.
Literally. Yeah. GTO was a thing in gutters before it was in poker. I was kidding.
That's great, man. Before we get into the transition here, what was the online boom like for you as far as trying to go professional?
I never played online to treat it like a living. I had a roommate at the time in the mid-2000s that lived with me when I was going through my divorce. He played poker full-time online. That was his grind. They called them Dons online. They were called double or nothings. So he'd play 4 to 6 tables of Dons, and he'd play one heads-up match.
So that'd be 26 people and 13 cash?
No, it'd be they were usually 10-person tables with 5 people cashing. It was what he played back then. Bovada had him at 6 people, 3 people getting paid.
Gotcha.
He crushed those. He had a 64, 65% win rate, and then his heads-up win percentage was 59, 60%. And the rake was really low on those because it was 2.5%, 5% rake or something like that. So you only had to beat like 53% to be extremely profitable with rake back and all the perks that you got. And so he grinded those all day, but he only had to make like $2,000 a month.
Yeah.
I was going through a divorce and my child support was like $960 a month, so I couldn't grind online and I never wanted to play nosebleeds online. So I just kind of dabbled. And then when me and my wife were getting ready to get married and we had just opened K-Guard, I kind of messed around with the streaming deal for a couple weeks. I was like, man, I think this is going to be huge. I really wish I would have went all in on that.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that even to this day, have you ever looked on like Rumble?
No, not really.
Rumble's like a newer streaming site, but there's some people on there, 3,500, 4,000 live viewers that have 50,000 subscribers, and they're just playing micro stakes.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, let's roll. All right, sorry about that, folks. We were talking about online poker and the boom. So you were talking about going full nuclear, playing full time a lot, and you didn't totally commit to online just due to time constraints.
It wasn't time constraints. I just always enjoyed the physical tale of the game. Like, don't get me wrong. I think you can make a good living online. You could definitely make a good living online back then. Now with all the different bots and overseas sites that aren't as heavily regulated as they kind of were with PokerStars and Full Tilt, even though there was obviously the Black Friday scandal and all that fun stuff. I feel like there was a lot less cheating, other than like the Absolute scandal and stuff like that. I don't think there were bot farms like just came out on Poker News a couple weeks ago or whatever. I think it was beatable, especially if you're grinding tournaments. I still think tournaments online are beatable. I've been beating them for decades, but the cash games I think are a lot harder to win online now than they were back then. Back then it was like printing money, especially if you're early enough for PokerStars or Party Poker.
Yeah, Eric was saying that European players were pretty easy to beat back in the day.
Oh, dude, they were.
What do you chalk that up to?
I really don't know. They were super aggro back then, before anybody else was aggro. So I think it was very easy to beat them, only because we were all playing, for the most part, ABC poker. And if you were advanced in ABC poker back then, you could trap those kind of players. Where now everybody's so darn aggressive. Everybody knows how to play out of position now for the most part. Not everybody does it well, but everybody tries.
Yeah. When you went on the circuit to deal, what circuits were you dealing for, like the ring event or the WSOP ring events?
So I did a little bit of everything. I did a couple Heartland Poker Tours back in the day.
Ah, Heartland Poker.
Yeah, I used to do Meskwaki every single time it came on the schedule, and that's because I played that event. It was kind of one of those situations that kind of fell in my lap. I'd played that event, and they had a bunch of really bad dealers. And so I went up to the supervisor and was like, hey, I'm not a person that complains, but when you put this good of a televised structure coming through your casino and then you have somebody from accounting or security dealing that's never dealt, it's kind of I paid $1,600 to be in this event, which I did, and I used to satellite in if I played something like that. And I would only play an event if I won multiple tickets back then. So I kind of became a Heartland Poker Tour satellite grinder too. I'd go win a couple tickets and sell them if I was up. I'd go home with my money, and if I had enough to free roll the event, I'd free roll it, but I only free rolled a couple.
Where could you win satellites for Heartland back in the day?
They used to run them. It's kind of like MSPT now. MSPT is now going to a full schedule, but they used to literally have 4 or 5, 1 in 5 win a seat type deals a couple days leading up to the event. So if you went and grinded just the satellite tickets, which me working in the casino industry back then, weekdays were my days off, so I couldn't really dedicate to the weekends anyways. I'd go try to win a couple satellite tickets, and they were transferable at most properties. St. Charles, when they hosted their first HPT, I think we only allowed you to sell a ticket twice or something like that. They had some weird stipulation because of gaming laws, but that was one that I actually ended up, I think, playing that event because of that, because you could only win so many tickets or whatever.
Is St. Charles, is that an Ameristar?
That's an Ameristar.
Okay. What other casinos do they have in the St. Louis area?
They have a Hollywood, which is the old Harris, which Hollywood bought from Harris. And then the old Lumiere is now a Harris property, which is called the Horseshoe. And then PENN has another property, so PENN owns Hollywood. They also have River City there. And then what's the other one? There's a couple on the east side of Illinois, like Casino Queen, stuff like that.
How many of those casinos have poker rooms?
Only Hollywood and St. Charles.
So the St. Charles Ameristar has a poker room?
Yep.
Okay.
It used to be beautiful up on the... It used to be kind of like our Ameristar had a beautiful room, right? And then when they... during COVID or something, I think they moved it. They ended up moving it to the other side of the casino upstairs. And don't get me wrong, it's still a nice room. It just doesn't get the traction anymore.
Is it safe to say that when you were grinding, trying to play full time, you liked those bigger bad beats?
No,
No, so you were still a smaller promotion, more money off the wall type of guy?
Yep. I personally, and I've always been a fan of the more money, no offense to losing players out there. And I try to explain this to winning players all the time because, like, Hollywood just increased their promo fund to $2. Everybody thought that was my idea. It was not my idea, by the way. That's something they started last January, and it took that long to approve because attorney generals and licensing and all that fun stuff with bat beats are a long process in Kansas. But the more money you spread around to losing players, the more they're able to stay into the game. So let's say you are a break-even player, but I can get you a high hand once a week that gets you an extra $200 to $400 a week. Well, guess what? Now you're a winning player, right? All because of promos. So if I can keep you in the game, you're a break-even player. Now let's say your buddy's a losing player, but barely a losing player, and he can hit a straight flush once a month because he puts in volume. That's an extra $500 in his wallet. He might only be a $1,000 a month losing player, but now he's only losing $500 a month. Well, I might have been winning $3,000 a month. I might be giving up $300 to $400 a month now in promo fund, but instead there's better games, more games, bigger games. So the more money you have circulating around, the better. I mean, imagine if in any industry, if you take $1 million away from the local community, what that does to their pockets. Kills the games.
Yeah, but it's cool when you see a regular hit it.
It is. But the problem is when they get that big, where's the money go?
You tell me.
So if I handed you $100,000 right now, you gonna go play poker with it?
No.
No. If I handed you $1,000 right now, you might go play poker with it, though, right?
Yeah, and like to speak to that as well. If you give a player that's pretty passionate and helps support the industry, and they get that $500, they also get another $500 worth of experience and another $500 worth of hands.
Yep.
So it's it's like reindustrializing the community and reinvigorating the community.
Yep. Yeah, and I've been playing with it too at Hollywood because luckily they've given me a lot of control on what to do. And so once they raised it to $2, I had no clue it was even coming. They were like, "Hey, next week we start dropping $2." I'm like, "What?" And so I was like, "Okay, that means we can give out a lot more money more often. So let's give out even bigger quads." So quads was $100, and it was lucky to get to like 120 by the time somebody would hit it because it was going up 15 cents to $1 a day. Nothing when you're only dropping $1 and 70 cents is going to that, and 30 cents is going to the bat beat. Now we're able to increase quads depending on how much the drop is every day, and they're going up a lot. Like we paid out $600-700 quads the last couple of weeks. Like it's if one will roll for a week or two, I mean it's a good little payday.
Yeah, no, that's really nice. I switched my mindset on that a lot too. I was all about trying to get that, quads over quads, straight flush over quads, just to get that one big payday. But I've really come to the realization that it is better to get the high hand of the hour. If you can pay that, straight flush. If you can pay those hands, it does. It gives you more opportunities to leave there at least even.
Yep.
Which most of us poker players, that's a win for us.
Right.
We can leave even.
Yeah.
What do you think about the MSBT?
I actually, I've known Brian Molesky, the owner of MSBT, for a long time. Kind of met him back in the HBT days before he really launched. I like it. It's weird now that they're starting to get into bigger events and more events and kind of turning it into more. And I mean, really run good. Not saying they started because of MSBT, but Tana actually toured like a year with them selling merchandise and stuff. And I think Tana was like, "Oh, I can do this better than just running a main event every week." And kind of do a mini series, and I think that's why MSBT's kind of adapted.
They have some huge guarantees now.
Oh man, there's tournaments every year that I actually haven't played, but they are on my radar of not miss if I can get the time off or actually get away from my business or Hollywood and or both. Like Firekeepers, like Detroit, that's like a $1 million guarantee.
Yeah.
Talking Stick was just a really big one. First time they went to Talking Stick.
Is that the one on the Joplin line?
Talking Stick was Arizona. They went there for the first time like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and you got to look up that room. That room is beautiful.
Have you played at that casino that's right outside Joplin?
Downstream?
Downstream.
Yep.
That's a cool place.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I remember. Poker room's huge.
I remember they hosted an HPT event in the smallest, 8-foot ceiling convention room the very first time they ever hosted it. And it was jam-packed, crowded, more crowded than some of our tables at Hollywood on full spread. And the tables were really super close together, and we played a satellite. And I remember I had 3 big blinds left. And next person got a seat. Everybody got a seat, next person out. And I'm literally the shortest person in the room getting ready to go through blinds. And that was back when you had to ante every hand, so I didn't have very many hands left. I remember aces versus kings tangoed, and they were both 100 big blinds deep, and aces got busted or something like that. I'm like, you idiots.
Oh, man.
We just had a tournament like that actually yesterday at Hollywood on President's Day. It was a 360 Survivor to win 3,000, and I was waiting to see some of those mistakes because it's not a normal tournament. You're playing to survive. That's why they're called a Survivor. I was waiting for some big hands to tango, which there were. But
Back in the day, could you play at the places you dealt, or was that still a no?
That's still a thing nationwide. Depends on which state you're in. Missouri and Kansas don't allow that. Indian reservations kind of have their own rules, and a lot of them let you play in departments you don't work in. So you'll notice a lot of poker players deal table games or slot attendants, and vice versa. A lot of table games players might deal poker. A lot of slot players might deal poker, and they do that so they can play in the department they want to play in. Then there's some places that allow people to play. I remember Allison Arvey, which was one of the greatest Kansas City dealers of all time, before she went on to deal Bahamas and PCA and all that big stuff that she dealt for Poker Stars and stuff. But she used to deal at Alec Pre and then Harris, and I forgot where I was even going with that.
We were talking about before dealer. Something going away. Damn it, Jack. Help us out.
I went completely brain fart. Yeah.
No, what was I saying about it before that? It's fine. We'll come back to it. I got so much to get to. When did they stop doing tournaments and switch over to where it was primarily cash games in Kansas City?
I mean, it's always been a cash game market. Isla Capri obviously had their morning tournament. Harris had their afternoon tournament. Maristar used to have a mid-afternoon, late evening tournament. They were all kind of turbos back in the day just to get heads in the door. And they were kind of all just kind of cash game driven. I think COVID really hurt that for Harris and just never really brought him back. Blessed that Hollywood brought him back. I mean, obviously, Eric started Cash Cows, right around COVID or right during COVID, and kind of filled that void why they kind of disappeared, and is still filling that void. I believe he's still filling that low stakes void for sure, which gets new people in the market.
Yeah.
No different than small stakes online, right?
Well, it's hard to get a live tournament experience, and it's great that you can go play a 65 or 70 on a Monday and Wednesday night and kind of get the feel. And, I don't know. I mean, I played a tournament, I think, prior to COVID at Harrah's, and it was like a 10 a.m., and I think it drew like 11 entries.
Yeah.
I never really thought there was many tournaments in the city.
Yeah, they used to be real big pre-COVID, like late 2000s, right? Or I call late 2000s. 2003 to 2000, probably 15, used to be a big deal. And then Hollywood opened. We had 2 good tournaments a week, Sundays and Mondays, because I was the original tournament director there, and we had Sunday, Monday tournaments. When I left, Brian Vickers came in, and they started rolling a couple more tournaments out, Tuesdays and Thursday nights, bounty tournaments. Those were huge fields. And that's kind of just where it stayed. And then Harris eventually got rid of them, I think, after COVID, and started struggling maybe right before COVID. If they were only getting 11 people in a tournament, that's kind of struggling. But I mean, Kansas City's always had a tournament market. It's been a huge free poker market. There was like 4 or 5 huge free poker tours in Kansas City, and there's still a couple of them that are operating, which aren't really free anymore. I think there's a lot of them are doing $5 to $20 buy-ins at these bars. But
so when you say free poker tournament, do you mean like the pool places that? Like the pool tournament, what's that one in Blue Springs that does a lot of tournaments? Like the charity events? Is that what you're referring to?
No, it was actually free poker. You would go in and play. Actually, my brother used to have one of the biggest tours here in Kansas City, but you would go in and play. It was a 3-hour turbo, basically at most of these places. 7 o'clock, say, start time. You were done by 10, and it cost you nothing to enter, and you'd win like a $20 to $100 bar tab.
Is that where you'd buy a drink and get extra chips?
Yeah, back in the day. Yeah.
Okay.
Depending on which side of the state line you're on. Obviously, tours had different, or state lines had different laws, and you couldn't persuade people to drink on one side, but you could on another, and couldn't have pricing consideration, all that fun stuff because of gaming laws.
Yeah, I think they had some you could buy food too
Yep.
and get some free chips.
I do remember what we were talking about with Allison, is that we were talking about where you could play and work.
Yes.
I remember the first time I went to Vegas and played, well, not the first time. First time I went back to Vegas probably and played poker, it was after Allison had moved out there, and she was dealing at playing at Hollywood. She dealt me. There was nobody in the 5 seat. And I was like, hey, nice to see you, blah, 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 blah. Next thing you know, she comes out from the back room in like a different shirt, and she's playing in the 5 seat, and there's a massive chip stack in the 5 seat. I'm like, no wonder why there's so many chips there, because she was also a great player.
Is that strictly a collusion tax, basically? for the people that work there, or is there other deeper reasonings as to why you can't play at the places you work?
I have mixed feelings on it. If you're a tipped employee and you're a good player, it's probably not smart to be taking from your customers. If you're a terrible player and you're just a donator, you're really good for the game. So, like, I kind of feel like it's good and bad.
Is that something you'd ever fight? Like, especially building something so great at Hollywood, you know, it'd be cool to see your buddies and your coworkers be able to come in on their day off and play at the place that you build.
I would personally love it. It's a fine line. It's kind of like drinking if you're a bartender in your own place of employment. Like, some people just can't handle it. I think turnover rate would increase because you would get people that would mess up. You know, they'd have a drink, or they would whatever would be allowed. They would eventually mess up. People that can't handle their attitudes or can't handle their frustration, that can't walk away from problems, would eventually mess up. So I think it would affect your turnover rate, and you might lose some really good dealers then. But there's pros and cons. I mean, obviously keep the games going longer.
Yeah.
A lot of dealers are good for the games.
Builds community too.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into how in the heck you basically got into this. What I understand is more of a niche position, almost an advisor role. I know that's not your technical title, but can you explain what was going on with Hollywood and why did they bring you back in, and what kind of problems were you set to fix there?
It kind of just was a domino effect. Brian Padilla had taken over the room. I'd worked with Brian at Harris and also worked with him at Hollywood. Marty Krifka was one of our dual rate supervisors, had been at Hollywood, like, I think he's been there 32 years between a couple properties. He actually just won Employee of the Quarter, so congrats, Marty.
Shout out, Marty.
Yeah, right. If he listens to this, that's a huge accomplishment. He's been there 32 years and finally getting recognized. That's important. But I was talking to Marty kind of behind the scenes. I was like, hey, you might tell Brian to try this. Hey, you should tell Brian to raise the price. Hey, the players really want a $500 buy-in. And they were like, are you crazy? I'm like, no, they really want. And like Brian says, even the other day, he was like, man, I would have never thought raising the price would increase entries. Like, never in my wildest mind would I say, hey, charge $3 a gallon, more people will come get gas. That doesn't work in most industries. But in poker, it's like, hey, a bigger prize pool, bigger carrot, more people want to show up for it. People actually come in from out of town for it, which they're starting to realize. So I think last year MLK Day was, I think, their first 500. So they did a 500 and they had a pretty good turnout. I think they had like 140 something. And then they did a 150 on President's Day for whatever reason. Me and Brian were trying to figure that out yesterday. I was like, why'd you drop the price after raising it? He's like, I don't know, man. He's like, we were just trying new things because you told us to try new things. I was like, okay. So then, what was it? The next one was Memorial Day. Or no, St. Patty's Day.
And this was all within this last 12 months then?
Yeah.
Okay.
So St. Patty's Day, I said, hey, you had a really good turnout at MLK Day, but you only had 6 levels of late reg. You really should write a bigger structure, better structure, give them more chips, and extend late registration. You'll see a bigger number. So they kind of listened. They went to 9 levels.
Okay.
And they went to like 160 and 198 on Memorial Day. And so on Memorial Day, I busted out of the tournament, and I was sitting there talking to Brian. I was like, you happy with these results? He was like, dude, like I would have never imagined 200 people on a Monday afternoon for $500 on Memorial Day when most people are at a lake. And he's like, man, too bad I couldn't find like somebody like you to come back to work here. And I go, sign me up. He's like, no, man, you own a bunch of businesses. You ain't got time for this. I was like, no, seriously, sign me up. I was like, I don't know how long I can dedicate to it. 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years. I have no clue where this will go. We were kind of shopping, selling K-Guard at the time and all that fun stuff. So I knew I had avenues that were possibly changing, and I wanted to help poker. Not saying I've helped it. Definitely don't think I've hurt it.
You've definitely helped it.
So one thing led to another. May 26th, they basically created a position. They had to open it up for applications, go through their due diligence, make sure there's not another higher qualified candidate or whatever. Position doesn't pay as much as it used to back in 2012, so that was kind of disappointing for me. COVID kind of reset how the casino business works, and we've talked a lot about that behind closed doors with other management and stuff, how it's really changed. But it's just a passion of mine. Like, I want to see Run Good come through here. I would love to see WSOP or somebody come through here once there's a hotel. Hopefully one of these gaming agencies, Missouri or Kansas, will eventually get on board with having a tournament outside of the gaming floor, because big concert center, big convention center, something like that they can handle would be amazing, because Kansas City would support it.
Yeah, the room would. Is there a spot now without a hotel that they could host Run Good at Hollywood?
We're trying. I'm sure you heard the news last week that Run Good has pulled out of Harris.
Which, maybe I'm ignorant, but I didn't think that was news. I thought that was pretty confirmed 6 months ago that they weren't coming back.
So they pulled out in the fall because Harris wouldn't move the machines. And then they kind of re-signed a contract, whatever, or delayed the contract. I don't know the exact terms there. And I was reaching out to Tana back in July when I knew I was coming back to Hollywood, June, July, and was like, hey, I'm going to be starting any day now. Didn't know it was going to take till August, but I was like, I really want to get you guys in here. And he was like, hey, I'm loyal to the people I've been to, and I got to give Harris a kind of first right of refusal. So he did. They signed an event for May this year, May 7th through I think the 12th or 13th. And Tana called me from Run Good last week and was like, they are not going to move slots again. They're not going to move tables. This is a lose-lose situation for us and Harris. So, because, these tours get paid based on what they bring, right? And so if they're not able to bring players in because you're limiting them with space, you're only limiting them to 14 tables, and you're going to also have cash games on those 14 tables. It's a lose-lose situation for the dealers that come in from out of town, the tour, and even most importantly, Harris. Like, why pay that big of a chunk for a tour to come in if you're not going to give them the space to actually make you money?
Yeah, well, it's one of those things where they're choosing financial over passion, because the reason they won't move the slots is because they know those are the breadwinners. Those are what's bringing the money, right? But
which, I mean, that's to be understandable. If you saw the P&Ls in a casino, like the square footage for slot machines versus anything else in that, I mean, even table games, sports betting, everything, like square footage, slot machines just crush every department.
Have you been to Harrah's pretty recently?
Yes.
So you've seen how crazy upstairs has gotten with the slot machines.
It's insane.
It keeps, like, every time I go there, there's 10 new slot machines or something's moved around and it looks much bigger.
Yep. It's very crowded.
So you were really excited when they basically kind of made a position for you. Mm-hmm. What was the biggest struggle that they wanted you correct? Because you're basically, it sounds like, advising somebody while playing actively, and what your advisements were doing were working. Was there anything on the back end that was a huge problem that they really needed somebody who had been in the game for a while to fix?
Understanding structures and profit and what the player wants, what the dealer needs to make the player's needs want. You got to keep three people happy in poker. If the customer's not happy, you have no room. You have no poker room. You have no slots. You have no nothing. If the customer's not happy, you have no casino, right? So if you go down to the department of just poker, if the poker player's not happy, they're not coming in. If the dealer's not going to make any money, they're not going to be happy. Then you're going to have terrible dealers, which in return gives terrible poker experience, right? And there goes your customers again. And then if the casino's not making money, same thing, right? You got to keep three people happy. So I've always been a math guy and always broke down structures. I can tell you when a structure is going to be at the final table, final two tables, three tables. If I go play a tournament, as soon as registration closes, I can kind of break down where I need to be to have the 20 to 30 big blind average stack, which is not where you want to be, but you're not in
Workable.
Yeah, you're workable, you're grindable, right? But I can tell you, like, hey, I need to have this many chips at some point today to bag if I'm going to bag this event, because if they're going to take 15%, you just got to figure out the big blind math, which I've wrote a spreadsheet for it so I can plug it in quick. And I did that for the dealers, the house, and the players. So one of the first things I did was make sure that the dealers and staff are happy, the players are happy, which will return make the customer or the casino happy, because the more players you bring in, the more profit they make. So
how did you go about that? And like, one thing that I've always wondered, is there a big holdup for dealers that want to deal tournaments?
Now.
Because now they're not getting tips, right?
Yep.
So if you're dealing a tournament, you're making your hourly wage. Do they give you a differential?
There's always the dealer add-on, the optional dealer add-on. So it was, I think, $5 when I started at the $100 rate. And I think the casino was taking 10. No, casino was taking 15 and the dealers were getting 10. So there was basically 25% juice on a $100 buy-in, which that's almost probably unbeatable. Probably top 5% of the players in the world could beat that. So most of it was just for the casual player to come in the door. So one of the things I heard while I was playing was the rake's too high in the tournaments. That's the reason why we don't play very many of them, all that fun stuff. So the only way you can lower the rake is by raise the amount.
Of the entry or the amount of players?
The entry.
Okay.
Because there's no way a casino that's used to making this money every day, for an example, and the dealers are used to making this money every day, is ever going to say, hey, no, give the players some more of that.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. Unfortunately, it's the business world we live in, right? And it's also the income world we live in. People want to make money, too, when they work. So I did kind of a survey before I started of what players wanted. Would you guys rather see it at 150 with 15% rake? Would you rather have a freeze out? Would you rather have a knockout, a mystery bounty? Like, I ran all these different surveys. I probably ran 30 surveys 2 months before I started.
Was that just talking to regulars, or was somebody comes through the door, you'd hand them a piece of paper? How were you going about gathering those analytics, or those metrics?
The Kansas City Poker Group, there's a Facebook forum called Kansas City Casino Poker. And so I would post a poll in there. And some of them would get 50 responses, some of them would get 100 responses, some of them would get 3 or 4 responses. I'm like, well, that data's no good. There's only 3 or 4 people that chimed in. But most people wanted an earlier start time, 6 p.m. They wanted late registration, more chips, better structure, and most importantly, lower rake percentage. They didn't care about how much they were giving the casino. They cared about the percentage of the buy-in they were doing. So we've got that down to 150 is the buy-in. The casino still gets their 15. Dealers get 15 because it's now a longer structure, so we had to keep their hourly the same. And so but that lowers the rake percentage. And then the 200's even lower. The 350s are even lower. The 500s are the best 500 structure probably in the country right now. I think they're like 12% rake, which is between casino and dealer, which is amazing.
So is it harder to satisfy all 3 of those entities when the tournament entry is lower, even on like a big one-off like they do the MLK? Was pretty difficult to even make it worth the casino's time?
I mean, I think the casino's starting to... I mean, we're obviously crunching the numbers behind the scenes of what's worth it, what's not. There's obviously non-poker people above us. There's poker people above us, which this is honestly the best upper management I've ever seen and that I've worked around other than like real true poker departments like WSOP. But for a total casino, the VP, the president, all that fun stuff is very supportive. And so like that, we did that first ever multi-day for $800. And they were like, hey, we want a list of every person that registered. We want to know where they were from, how many times they bought in. We want to know if they spent money on the food. We want to know if they spent money in slots, table games.
Wow.
We don't have a hotel yet. That's another metric that they'll eventually be able to weigh in on. But they were like, we want to see their cross play. We want to see what it really brings because they know what it brought for us. We know that instantly. That's easy. Players times rake is your cut. Players times dealer fee, that's the dealer's cut. And we know the prize pool for the players. We know what they were rewarded. But they want to see what the crossover play is. And I know they're digging in right now, but I know they're happy.
How deep are you on your curriculum of what you want to implement there? Like, did you have a list of things that you wanted to do for sure?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and where about on that list are you?
Probably 50%.
What are some of the bigger things that you'd really like to see done?
There's some internal control rulings on cash games that we still need to fix. There's a couple rulings that we've got to rewrite because if you were a savvy rule reader, which there are people out there, there's some spots where you could shoot some angles. I'm not seeing anybody do it right now, so luckily I haven't had to focus on that yet.
Explain a little bit on that, what angles they could be shooting.
I guess, yeah. I mean, I'll put it out there because if I catch somebody doing it on purpose, we're going to kick them out. So don't shoot this angle. Let's say somebody bets $1,000, okay, on the river, and somebody wants to make it look like a $1,000 raise. They can put out $1,990, and the way that our cash game rules are written, that is not a legal raise. That's just a $1,000 call.
Because it's not 2x.
Because it's not a pure raise. The proper ruling there is anytime you drop 50% more or more, it has to be a legal minimum raise. So you would force the customer to make it look like 2,000. But if I say I just put my chips out there, I put 1990 out there, you're thinking I raised you, right?
Right.
That's what you see.
You get my complete reaction.
And as soon as you say call, like take my 990 back. You see what I'm saying? Be like, I didn't raise. That was only 990. So it's kind of a gray area in the rules that I've got to fix that one for sure. That's the one. We don't have 6-card Omaha approved. We don't have pineapple approved. But yeah, we have like horse and Badoogie, ace to 5, deuce to 7. We have all these other games approved. So that's another one that I need to get done. I want to eventually get a Run Good here or MSPT or somebody. I've been talking with Brian Molesky with MSPT and Tana with Run Good for a while now. So trying to get that in the works, trying to get the extra buffet space as a temporary approval until the hotel steals it not steals it, but takes it over for convention space, which we would eventually hopefully be able to rent back from them. I'm trying to get that approved with gaming right now, actually trying to pull some strings to be able to get Run Good here, but I don't know if we can get Run Good here by May. A 13-week turnaround time, trying to get chips, tables, felts, all that stuff approved by gaming is not just a, hey, this is what we're going to do, sign here, approval. It's a big, long process. Like, they got to see a chip sample. They got to see the felt sample. They got to see the table before they stamp the approvals. And so 13 weeks is a very short time period. So we're going to try to do something. It might not be Run Good for May. We'll have something for the players because they were expecting to come into town and play. So we'll put together something regardless. And then hopefully we can get maybe Run Good or MSBT here in the fall or late summer.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
I think I asked you this, but maybe I didn't catch the clear answer. Where would you put Run Good at Hollywood?
Oh, so my personal opinion, we have a buffet area that has a center wall down it right now. They put a temporary commercial studs, the little metal studs, and built a wall. They turned it into an overflow sportsbook viewing party area.
Okay.
So we have our sportsbook, and then Super Bowl Sunday or March Madness, big events, right, that people actually come in and place bets in person. They have a viewing area. I think they do the NASCAR party there too or whatever for the couple NASCAR races, but they use that room. It's got enough camera coverage, hopefully. We're waiting on that, wording from gaming if we got enough camera coverage in there for a host a poker tournament or not, but there are cameras in there. They're doing it for overflow sportsbook area. I think we can get 16 to 20 tables in there. I haven't completely measured it out with moving the stage because there's a stage in there for when they do the NASCAR stuff. And another spot is inside the sportsbook. So that's actually on the gaming floor where the buffet is technically not original gaming floor. It used to be a restaurant. So we're checking to see if gaming would give us a temporary permit for the buffet. And if not, talking about possibly moving some stuff out of the sportsbook. All those tables are temporary. All those couches are movable. Movable, not necessarily temporary. So there's places we could put it. You could also move machines. I don't think any property is smart for doing that. The amount of move the machines a week in advance, get everything set up, run the tournament, then just get everything set back up a week later. I think properties actually probably lose a lot of money doing that on moving the slots, unless you have it set up banks that just don't make any money, which I don't think that's the case with most people.
Well, even the labor. I mean,
yeah.
How long does it take to move, 50 machines?
I couldn't imagine.
Yeah, it's got to be pretty labor intensive.
And gaming involved. Like anytime you're moving stuff, they want to. Like, we can't even, when we get a new shuffler, gaming has to come make sure that the software gets loaded before it gets sealed over. Gaming industry is a heavily regulated industry.
So speaking of gaming, Hollywood wasn't always PENN. When they first started, they had different cards. Were they still PENN?
It was still PENN. It was
okay.
PENN Gaming, which was still PENN. It all started at, I believe, the racetrack up in Pennsylvania. That's where kind of the PENN came from. Pinnacle, they bought Pinnacle, which owned HBT at one point, pre-COVID, I think. But it's always been a PENN property.
You've worked for a lot of casinos and you've been heavily involved. Do you find that there's a benefit to working with that company? Or do you have some of similar criticisms to all of these big casinos, Caesars, whatnot? Does PENN do anything extra to really invigorate the poker community for you guys over there?
I don't know if it's necessarily PENN. I think it's individually property management based. Obviously, PENN's put some effort into poker by buying the HBT when they bought Pinnacle. They launched the Hollywood Poker Open before they bought Pinnacle to buy the HBT and all that fun stuff. So they've been poker savvy, but I still think it's property dependent because I still think there's upper managers and VPs and stuff like that in some of these properties that are slot because the price per square foot, right, what it brings back. This particular management group at Hollywood Kansas Speedway right now is probably the best customer service driven, all packages working together, restaurants. I mean, the restaurants are starting to open more and more, longer hours, more days. Poker's pretty much getting almost anything and everything we've asked for. Table games is improving. Layouts are constantly being changed so they're not dirty. They just care more now. So I think it's more property dependent. I think Caesars has been a great asset to poker over the years, owning WSOP, buying it for a while, putting on some of the biggest events ever in history, thanks to, their Vegas properties out there. But I still think that's property dependent. I mean, look at how Harris KC is right now, volume-wise. It's just kind of down, and I don't know if they got the right upper managers there right now. Or maybe they just don't have the right one person. Who knows? It could be 5 people above the poker room manager. It could be the poker room manager. You never know with casinos.
So what is your biggest criticism of a place like Harrah's right now as it stands?
Not listening to the player.
And what do you think they want?
I know a lot of players want consistent promos, not changing stuff all the time, but they also want stuff that's new, right? So people get tired of playing the same tournament over and over and over. We've been pretty fortunate to do like a double black chip bounty and then no bounty. And then yesterday we did a survivor, but not changing it so much that it's like, sometimes we have a holiday tournament, sometimes we don't. I think one thing that's hurting Harrah's right now is they pull after the bad beat hit, they kind of ran bad, kind of like we have at Hollywood. Have had like 5 or 6 bad beats hit back to back to back to back. So we were at one point, a month ago, we were under $1,200, and I was like, that looks really bad. But it was also comical, right? We had a mini bad beat worth more than our big bad beat, and so people were like, "Hey, we need to lower that." I'm like, "No, we don't." Like, people are talking about that. That's word of mouth right now. You see Hollywood's mini bad beats 5K and their big bad beats 1,200? Like, that's hilarious. Or it was 10K and 3K or whatever it was at the time. People were talking about that. There's really no such thing as bad publicity, they say, to an extent. So I feel like the constant changing that they've been doing over at Harrah's has hurt them. They made people play like 280, 260 hours, 270 hours, whatever it was, 200 something hours.
If you wanted to make the promo, you better be playing 16 hours a day.
I'd be surprised if 30 people, 40 people make that.
I think it was like the last time it almost hit 50 players. It was not good. It might not have even hit 50 or 40. Yeah. It was low.
This was a lot of hours.
It's a ton of hours.
I considered grinding for it. Because I'm a poker player. Like I've even had conversations with Tom, the poker manager there, and I was like, hey, that's a lot. You know what I mean? Like, to make people play that many hours, that's a lot.
It seems like there's not a lot of turnover in the poker community as far as the industry workers. Do you agree with that? It seems like the same people that have dealt me in 2014, are the same people. I didn't play in 2014, but like the same people that dealt me when I first turned 21 are the same people that dealt me 2 weeks ago.
Once you've dealt poker, it's probably one of the easiest jobs and most rewarding jobs that you ever had. So that's why.
Yeah. Okay, what about Ameristar? What was the whole deal with that situation, and how do you view that? With their poker room closing, and then they had like multiple announcements of a possible relaunch. What do you chalk all that up to be?
A lot of it's rumors. It's still property dependent, right? There's still a lot of Boyd properties that have poker rooms. A lot of really good poker rooms that are Boyd properties. I think it's literally property manager budgets. Casinos are having the highest cost ever right now because of inflation, just like all the rest of us, right? They might be having record numbers in revenue, but they're also having the highest, other cost, right? I mean, heck, our poker chips have probably quadrupled since we opened. Just to be able to order, I was going to order a tournament set the other day if we were able to do run good, it was going to cost us like $100,000 something. We weren't even going to make that in 2 tour stops probably. So it's, everything's going through the roof. I think they saw it as an opportunity to just kind of close down a department that's kind of an extra thing to bring people in the door. And I think a lot of upper managers in casinos don't actually do like what Hollywood's doing now and actually cross-checking the numbers. They're actually, like, we have a LEAP employee at Hollywood right now, which is one of the, interns or whatever, just graduating college or going through, and it's kind of like his internship. And that's literally his job right now, is to see what poker is really worth to Hollywood. I would have been nervous of them doing that 2 years ago for Hollywood, for Kansas City poker. Probably 2 to 3 years ago, I'd have been like, no, they're going to shut this room down. But now they'll probably see these numbers and go, oh, hey, maybe we should add a few more tables. Maybe we should move the podium and actually open up the back room that's a surveillance window to a cage. Who knows? There's all kinds of options to grow that room. I've gave them like 4 or 5 little ideas that they could run with. We'll see where it goes. We could have a 16-table room right where it's at if we just move some stuff around. And we could, who knows, expand the room if we really need to. But that's up to them when they see these cross-check numbers and cross-play numbers, and do they eat at the restaurants, and how many people came in from out of town. I know we had a lady come in, Angela Jordanson. She's a traveling pro. I think she's from the upper Northwest, and she came in for the 800. She was on her way to somewhere else, but she saw it on Card Player.
Still.
It was like, hey, I'm on my way to Choctaw. I'll stop in Kansas City driving by.
Yeah, people will find a way.
Yep.
If they're in the area.
For sure.
They'll definitely come play, especially when you, like you said, it's weird because you raise the price. You go from maybe doing it at 200 on Memorial Day, and now you're doing an 800, but yet the turnout is tenfold.
Yep. Yeah, like we're starting to see a lot of people that are consistently from like 3 hours away. Salina, Omaha, Springfield, Branson, Joplin, Tulsa, coming up for our big events, just like our players go to them for their big events.
When you started at Hollywood, what was the mixed games like, and how much autonomy did they give you? It's clear now you were able to introduce a ton, but what kind of autonomy did they give you, or did you have to really fight to get some of those niche mixed games going?
They honestly have not fought me at all, which has been amazing. Sometimes, I try something and it doesn't work, but I was trying to just get that. We named it Horseback, and nowhere in the country is this game named Horseback. I was just trying to be ornery with it, right, and try to get people to ask, what is Horseback? Because if I say we're playing 9-game mix, people are like, I don't play mixed games, right? But if they say 3-6 limit Horseback, hey, what's Horseback? Oh, it's Hold'em. You've played that. Omaha High-Low. You've played that. You ever played 7-card stud? Yeah. Well, we're going to play 3 versions, Raz stud and High-Low stud. Have you ever played triple draw, 5-card draw? Yeah, back with my grandpa, my aunts, uncles, whatever. Like, okay, we're going to play 3 variations of that. And then they're like, okay, we'll come give it a shot at 3-6 limit. And that first week, we bought everybody lunch just to get the game going.
Yeah, I noticed you also put like beginner friendly,
Yeah.
which is nice because mixed games can be scary if you've never played.
Yeah, we're starting to get 2 tables on Thursdays now.
So that's been consistent. You guys have been able to roll that game out?
I was hoping to have it once a month, and we've had it twice a week ever since the first day we launched it.
Wow.
Yeah, they were like, can we play again tomorrow? I'm like, yeah. And then some of the players were like, can we play 5-10 on Wednesdays and 3-6 on Thursdays? Because some of us actually know these games and want to try to play a little bit bigger. And I'm like, sure. Well, now those 3-6 players are starting to cross over into 5-10. So I could see eventually that 3-6 game will probably become a 4-8, and that 5-10 will probably become like an 8-16 or something.
Do you have anybody in the industry, like maybe Vegas, that you consult with for any problems that might seem out of your scope?
I have a lot of contacts, so kind of like Eric. I mean, pretty much Eric has the same contacts as me. I might have a couple more non-WSOP contacts than he has, and he might have a few more WSOP contacts than I have. But like Eric Ewing runs the Orleans out in Vegas. If I wanted to reach out to him about some of the mixed game stuff he's doing, he will answer the phone. Like I asked him about a new promo he's running. He's running some quads promo. It's called Race to Deuces.
Okay.
And I was like, I see all these $999 quads. And I'm like, how are they getting away with $999 quads? Like, I'm trying to do the math. I'm like, we're dropping $2. I don't think we could do that. And so I reached out. I was like, hey, Eric. He used to work at St. Louis with us. I was like, how are you doing this race to quads? He's like, oh, we started aces. Once quad aces hits, quad aces is off the board for good. And then it goes down to deuces at $9.99. So every quads pays $9.99, but it only hits once and it goes top to bottom. I was like, oh, that's different. It's a way for him to get away doing it. Probably, I'm pretty sure they're only dropping $1. So it's a way for him to get away with it. He does aces full of tens bad beat, which I would love to move our bad beat to an aces full of tens eventually. I want it to hit often. I don't want it to get to 200K on accident.
Is there any way to build one of those mega bad beats over the course of 6 months to a year that draws any attention to where it doesn't take away from the constant promos of the straight flush or the high hand and the hour? Is there any way to do that and still keep that really exciting? We might retire a regular.
There is. I'm like right now we just doubled how much we're putting in our bad beat, obviously. Dropping $2, which also doubled how much we were putting towards high hands. I don't think we'll ever reach the 250 to 350 number again, but math is funny. Running outside of standard deviation is hilarious. We launched the promos for the quads December 1st, I think it was. Quads, straight flushes, and royal flushes, paying all these big numbers and resetting. And we lost like 40K the first 3 weeks. And they were like, Travis, I thought you knew your stuff. I'm like, it's just math. Like, we're getting ready to start dropping more, but we can always tweak the math until deviation catches up. It's no big deal. So yeah, we had like a 45K swing there, and now we're on like a opposite of that. So like we haven't had, I probably should knock on wood. They'll kill me if it hits twice this week, but we haven't dealt a bad beat since December, I don't think, or the big bad beat since January something early, and the mini bad beat since like December 19th. So we're on the opposite side of that negative swing in the variance of the players pool. So, and we want it to kind of stay consistent. I don't know what that number is exactly, but it's nice to have a little bit of a cushion for negative to run outside of deviation. But it's also, you don't want to have a lot of the players' monies in your account, because that actually hurts the community, like we talked about, the big bad beats. So I could see it getting up to 150, 200 eventually, if we don't hit one for 6 months to a year or something. But it's the way Hollywood hits bad beats. I swear our dealers have some kind of things on their fingers.
Yeah, you might have to look into that.
We had Marty one day. No wonder why he won Employee of the Quarter. He gave away like $23,000 in a half hour. He dealt a mini. Maybe it was 13,000. No, it was more than that, because he dealt a mini, which was 10K, I think. He dealt quads, which was like 3,000, and then he dealt like a couple couple quads in like a 30 to 45 minute period.
On a mini, what's the split for that?
It is 49% instead of 50%, because when it caps at 10K, which it's getting ready to get back to that 10K mark, it's at like 8,300 a day. The paperwork becomes like an hour and a half long process as soon as it hits 5K.
Why?
Because of the way the taxes work in Kansas, you got to then run them through the KDORS system and make sure they don't have any back taxes and all that fun stuff. It just speeds up the process. It's a true promo at $4,900 at a 10K cap. We just fill out the slip, you sign, we enter it in, you pay taxes on it later, basically. It's kind of like hitting a non-hand pay slot, right? If you hit a jackpot for now $1,900, you wouldn't get taxed, but at 2K you would. Yeah. So you're going to pay taxes either way, because it's recorded. It's reported, right? It's just, when do you pay them? And then how fast are you getting paid? Because now that the jackpots are being paid at $2,000, I believe is the new law. For
is
slots.
that Missouri and Kansas?
It's
also?
national.
Oh, it's national.
Some places, I'm pretty sure we're even got some slots that are still behind the 8 ball on getting the programs redone.
Used to be like 1,200,
yeah, it
right?
still triggers at 1,200,
yeah.
But then they just come hand pay you with no tax form.
Gotcha.
On the ones that are still behind, they're slowly but surely getting all the machines nationwide switched to that. And I think it's kind of casino dependent on how fast you implement that. I think they have this whole year to do it, but Hollywood jumped on board immediately and got it switched. So at midnight New Year's Eve was probably a cluster for slots, I imagine.
What do you attribute the growth in tournament poker to recently?
Everything. I'm sure PENN would get mad at me for even talking cash cows, but cash cows has been bringing in $65 players. And I actually been pointing this out to Brian. Our last 500, I was like, that's a cash cow player. That's a cash cow player. I'd never seen these kids 3 years ago. So I think that helps. Obviously, online poker helped over the last couple decades. And then just people caring about poker again in Kansas City, I think helps. I mean, even you're doing a podcast, right? You might not think that helps, but that helps, right? It's just people talking about it.
I talked to Eric about this because we were talking about Cabral, and to me, I never want to see the death of poker again, because it died for a long time, dude.
COVID killed it.
Well, even before that, I think like after Dwan went crazy and they stopped doing the high stakes poker, it was like nobody was really interested, and now they have like the celebrity poker tour, which is huge. Have you seen the Kill Tony poker game?
I have not.
Okay, so can you pull up a clip of this? Kill Tony, do you know what that is?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so Kill Tony, they have all the comedians go play at Doug Polk's club.
You know, I have seen this.
And it's hilarious,
yeah, I have seen this
dude.
now that you mention it.
It's so fucking funny. And you know what else? It's really cool to see. It's really cool to see these comedians that are in for $100 or $200 playing 1-2.
I'll have to show you some pictures. We can't put this on the podcast, but I'll show you some pictures in a little while of a celebrity game.
Is there any room, shooting from the hip here, is there any room in Kansas City to do like a high quality, constant high stakes game that goes on that's maybe streamed?
Probably. I don't know if gaming would ever approve something like that. So it's really hard. So Kansas gaming and Missouri gaming are a little bit more difficult than a lot of, let's say, Vegas. Texas doesn't have any gaming, so that's one reason why you're seeing so much streaming in Texas. I don't know what my feelings are still on streaming games. I still feel like there's so many possibilities for people to be able to cheat, which I think is why Kansas and Missouri would probably never be on board. Because you got to really trust the person running the software behind the computer, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
there's already been scandals.
Uh-huh. There's been a few scandals, and some of them never got talked about. And we won't talk about them here. We'll talk about those off the record. But there's no way that he could know the information and not have a signal up in the upper hand corner of all these lights and glamour. One light triggers on that you might not ever have noticed that it even triggered on, right? You got all these spotlights shining down on you. One slot machine light over and, video poker right over here behind you. All of a sudden has the service light come on. That would be normal for service lights to come on. So there's all kinds of ways. That's one thing at Hollywood. Like I've tried to really point out how many ways poker could be cheated if you're not paying attention.
Was there any security issues when you first got to Hollywood? Anything that you felt like needed to be implemented?
We're still working on one of them. Poker chips.
What about them?
We have one set.
And so the deal is with deterioration and marking, possibly?
Not chips. Stealing them.
Oh,
bringing them back for a bigger buy-in. So I immediately implemented. They had an inventory log, but it wasn't being used very well. And so kind of stressing the fact that that's very important. The very first 500 or 650 I ran, we had $4,000 or $5,000 chips, and a $10,000 chip go missing the night before.
Sketch.
Sketch. So, me making I'd noticed that on the chip log. I was like, that's really weird. That makes sense. Somebody's going to try to implement those today. So we happen to have an old chipset in the back. That was back when tournaments used to start at $5 blinds, $25 antes, stuff like that. Have all these chips in the back. They're not used anymore because we start at 100, 100, or 100, 200. Those old ante chips are just sitting back there collecting dust, and I go, ain't nobody going to cheat my tournament today. So instead of using the gray 5Ks that we've had this entire time, we used a red 5 for a 5K.
So you traded everybody out because the count didn't work, or we
I just didn't use those chips that day.
I got
So could you imagine if you went and played the $150 tournament the night before and was like, yeah, I got these chips for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Came back the next day and the chips are different colors and they'd never been a different color in 14 years. And they're like, what the hell? Like, I got these chips, they're no longer valuable.
At that point, you're like, this is a 50K I got.
Yeah. So it was just one of those things. It was like, I implemented that. We got those chips back slowly, by the way. It took 3 months.
Where were they?
Where do you think?
So you think they must have made it to the felt then?
Oh, eventually.
Oh, that must be frustrating.
Very, very frustrating.
Was there did you guys do any investigation? Did you guys have to tell gaming and they went back and watched hours?
Surveillance is always, anytime we're missing a 5K, surveillance is always digging in, trying to figure it out. But I mean, it's really hard to watch every single second of every single tournament and find out where they went.
I can't imagine.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard sometimes just to be in surveillance, try to break down a hand. Like something went wrong, your chips fell into my chips, and it's like, okay, I'm counting the pips on the side of the chips, 1, 2, 3. Okay, for some reason he had his stacks in 22s instead of 20s. You know what I mean? And then you're trying to, okay, so he had 4 stacks, so he had, 110 times 4, 440, and then you're trying to figure it all out. I couldn't imagine trying to trace down one single 5K chip that disappeared on a Tuesday night or whatever night.
Yeah, it's near impossible. Yeah. A couple things I wanted to ask you about. When did they start doing big blind ante? And do you know what the reasoning was? That just because it's way easier than having everybody ante?
Yeah, I think it was TDA. This is the new one's coming up this year. So I think it was 4 years ago this year. 4 years ago this summer, I think is when it was rolled out. I was actually like, what the heck are they doing? But I was considered one of the better dealers, right? So I don't think it really slowed me down collecting antes. You always shuffled your cards, you left your stub in front of you, you collected the antes right to left to the middle, and then you cut your deck. I think what happened was there was a lot of dealer mistakes, a lot of slow dealers. Like, oh, you owe me your ante. One of you two owe me your ante because they're not paying attention. And I think it just really slowed the game down, and they figured out a way to implement it that it works. And it really does work. I mean, it's kind of the same math.
Yeah, it works out in the end, in your perspective,
Oh yeah, yeah.
from your perspective.
At first, as a player, I was like, "This is so dumb."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then I started playing tournaments like that, and I was like, "I kind of like it."
Well, even at Run Good last year, I was surprised. It was my first tour that I played, and man, on a 30-minute clock, I'm still only getting 5 hands by the time they shuffle, and maybe 6. But seriously, it didn't seem like I was able to play that many hands in a 30-minute level. With the hand dealing, it was probably more than 6,
It's
but
definitely more than 6.
it
but
just felt so slow, man. I felt like I'm getting a big blind, or maybe once, and if I'm lucky, twice in a level.
yeah, back when we were hand shuffling, most dealers were probably giving you one orbit for about 15 to 20 minutes, so 9-10 hands.
Yeah.
So a 30-minute clock, you're only getting an orbit and a half, and then you factor in slow dealers, you're getting less. Then you factor in the fast dealers, you're getting an advantage if you like to play a lot of hands. I probably was one of those dealers that people hated to see if they were short, because I would tap in and I'd be like, "We're dealing 35 hands an hour here, boys." Yeah, I mean, hand shuffle or not.
Double-edged sword, though, because then you're getting to see maybe a second cheaper big blind.
Yep.
Yeah, and maybe you can be on the tail end at the next level and see a full.
But late, I'm sure tournament players hated. I'm sure grinders, small stack grinders, hated me back in the day, because I didn't care. I was going a million miles a minute. I had the mindset: the faster you deal, the more money we all make. Which in cash games, I think everybody has that mindset as a dealer for the most part, trying to deal the most efficient, fastest game possible without making a mistake. But in tournaments, I think a lot of dealers just get back into the chill, relaxed, almost stoner dealing mindset. You know what I mean? Like they just kind of come down to another level, and they're just doing their job instead of they're not working for tips anymore, really.
Yeah, they're definitely not.
Yeah,
there's
even though they are. But
although everybody once around has to make the joke when they win a pot. Here's your $5,000.
$5,000 tip. Oh.
Never heard that before.
Yeah, no joke. If you heard all the things we hear over and over and over.
Okay, what about the 1-3?
What about it?
Why 1-3?
I really don't know where that came from. No different than anything else. Why'd we go from 2-5 to 1-2? Like national average was 2-5 in early 2000s, and then all of a sudden there's 1-2 games everywhere, and now you can't get a 2-5. I think 1-3 started at Hollywood just to be different, because Harris had 1-2. When we first opened, I think this is one reason why I think Texas Poker is still doing it right, and why they have so many variations of games. It's a double-edged sword, because we couldn't change it now, and that's only because every player in Kansas City would freak. Me and Tom, or me and whoever was at Harris, would have to make the change the same day and be like, "This is the new Kansas City rule." But I firmly believe we don't have 2-5 and 5-10 and 10-25 and 25-50 anymore in this town, which we used to. Every Wednesday night we had all those games. Every Friday and Saturday night we had most of those games. Believe we don't have those anymore, because we now have uncapped 1-2 and 1-3 basically. Well, now 1-3 both places, because they switched over at Harris. Why would you play 2-5 when you can buy in for $3,000 or $4,000 in 1-3?
So you guys don't have a match the big stack on it?
We do. That's what I mean. But like, it's within an hour or two, somebody's won $1,500. Then somebody buys in for $1,500, and at some point, those kind of stacks tango. And by the end of the night, people are buying in for $2,500 to $5,000 on some of these games.
Yeah, well, I always tell people, they might go to Cash Cows and play 65, and they want to go to Harris and play 1-2. I'm like, dude, the game plays like 5-10.
It's stupid. Yeah. It really is.
You're not playing 1-2. The game, I've never seen a $6 raise.
Nope, not anymore. Not since probably pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Man, I remember I used to raise to $7 every hand because I was the only aggro in the game. Now it's like, if you're going to do that, you better raise to 15 to 25.
Yeah.
And you're still getting $3.
Okay, the other thing, and I know you heard this on the Eric White one, what is going on with those tiny cards, dude? I hate those cards, man.
So, we have a lot of Omaha. So, if you're holding 4 cards and you're holding the jumbo print, it is really hard. Most Omaha players hate having big cards. I want one of the card manufacturers to actually build a hybrid. Have you ever seen the 4-color deck online?
Well, I mean, like Club WPT has a 4-color, like you're talking reds, greens.
Yeah, not saying use a 4-color deck, but have you ever seen the layout of a 4-color deck?
No,
So they usually have a really big ace, like takes up like 2/3 of the card in the middle of it.
Okay.
So to be like, let's just draw it out. Like, let's say it's that big on the card, right?
he's got it. All right, cool.
Big Ace. Let's see here. Yeah, find a 4-color deck that has the big imprint in the middle. No.
Is there a brand that makes it? Like,
well, it's online poker, so you're probably gonna have trouble finding one.
so they don't make these.
Yeah, find 4-color online poker deck, and just see if you can find an image of it. But there'll be a really big image in the middle of the deck.
Darn. I can't
We'll find it. If not, is this live or does this edit in?
We can edit it.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say I can get you one to edit in.
What website? Maybe try WPT. I think they have.
I was gonna say all the online sites have it for sure.
We'll have to find it and put it in, but
Yeah, there's literally a huge logo in the middle, so you could still have the small, kind of like that. I mean, similar. See that one in the middle, the Vision 4-color.
Okay.
That's 2 big logos.
oh, I see.
That's 2 big logos. Which the one I was talking about was even bigger center logo. That one on the upper right hand corner. See that?
Yeah.
Right there. So that one's not a good example. But there's one that has like the online version is like a humongous ace in the middle of the ace of spades with like the ace of spade, like the spade mark, right? And in the corner, it still has the small one. So when you're looking at your hand, you can protect it from your neighbor. But when you're looking in the middle of the table, when it's hard to see them, you can actually see the big logo, even bigger than what we get at, Harrah's and the jumbo places that use them. I have told Brian that we do need to go to the jumbo.
Those cards depress me, Travis.
I also personally hate how thick our cards are. Just personal preference. I feel like they mark faster, and so we're changing decks more often. That's just a casino manager mindset. But then the thinner cards like Kopaks, like I think Eric uses, right? They also have their problems in the summer in high humidity where they start to warp. So it's like you got pros and cons. We're using the Jamaica. It's a really thick card, very good card in the summertime. We can get jumbo print.
I mean, don't do it just for me. But
oh no, we got
God, please.
We got a lot of casinos were offered during COVID specials. I don't know if we were one of them, but I know a lot of them were offered specials to buy bulk cards during COVID, and so we still have like a couple cases to go through.
Oh wow!
Before we can even get a new card, because
how many decks is in a case?
2.
And
But cases? Oh, I have no clue. That's a big box.
How many decks do you think you dispose of a day?
None. They're reused for a long time. We probably get 20 to 30 uses out of most of them.
So you replace the single card?
We'll replace the single card if they go back.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Now, every once in a while, a shuffler will like malfunction and the wheel will press too hard and we got to destroy a whole deck. But it's not very often. Omaha games are hard on cards. I will say that.
I saw a guy using a recorder at Hollywood once. Do they allow that now?
Yes and no. They don't allow just anybody to record, but they do allow, if you go through the steps, if you're a social media channel and you want to actually advertise, you actually sign a contract saying that you won't put people's faces in it and all that fun stuff. I think that's a good thing for poker.
Huge.
Trying to navigate that a little bit with Hollywood. We just recently brought it up like 3 or 4 weeks ago, and then they came out with a policy, which was always been their policy, but they finally put it out, and so everybody kind of had it fresh on their mind. They had their first ever like slot person come in for one of the big holidays not that long ago, and so social media is huge. I think they're starting to see the implements of that. They actually have a full-time social media team that's posting regularly at Hollywood, starting to get them to post a little bit about poker. We're getting 1 or 2 posts a month, which is better than the no post a month that they were doing for a decade. Because poker's kind of just been, not say the redheaded stepchild, but it's kind of just been another thing that casinos offer. And most people don't treat it like it's their number one profit because it's not. And eventually we're just kind of slowly but surely getting there. We just sent out our first email in 14 years for poker too.
Nice.
Yeah. It kind of sucks because we only had like 1,900 email addresses in the database. And we've had like 66,000 players come through there in 14 years or whatever it was that I sent them. But that's a start, right? 1,900 people got an email advertising the President's Day tournament and the new promos. And so,
Do they allow people to record slots now in Kansas and Missouri at their own will, or is that still fringe?
Kansas lets you do that, or Hollywood lets you do that, as long as you're not like filming other people and you're not live. Like you can pretty much film your jackpots, take pictures of your jackpots, your chips, stuff like that.
So you can't live stream your whole day at Hollywood?
That's a good question. I don't think so. I don't think they're allowing that. Only because you're going to eventually get somebody's image in there that you're not supposed to.
So how would you handle a situation if Rampage Poker comes to Hollywood and he gets approved to record, but then somebody's face gets in there?
That's a good question. Yeah, that would be between marketing and upper management and them approving all that. Jamin Burton's been there. Sure, you've seen his.
I probably, if I've seen the clips, I'm not
familiar. You could probably pull it up on YouTube. It's Jamin Burton. I forget the name of his channel, and type in Hollywood, Kansas, and you'll find like a pre-COVID vlog.
Oh wow!
But he used to do. He still does it, but he doesn't film daily anymore. I mean, he was one of the first content creators that were doing really, really good editing.
It gets you a bankroll.
Yeah. Oh, wait until he pulls it up. The Drawing Dead vlog. That's his. But he's got really good editing. I wish he was producing content weekly again. I think after COVID, he just kind of slowed down. But you can find the old Hollywood Casino Kansas Speedway blog on there. There it is, Poker in Kansas City. So, yeah, he used to be from St. Louis, so he'd drive all over the Midwest playing poker games. And this is kind of when his editing started, right? And then once he moved to Vegas, like he went all in, started getting, comedy clips in there and all kinds of stuff, which is awesome editing.
Will you go back a little bit where there's those gold felts? I want to see. Yeah, right there. Give us a little volume, would you? If you can.
Yeah, so he was still doing that back then. But he always had good editing.
Yeah. Yeah, this guy had like a special camera. It didn't look like he set up his phone with the tripod. It like sat right at the edge of the table. But I was like, well, that's great for Hollywood because, you can't do any of that at Harrah's. Even when I turned 21, you still had to back up to use your phone. Mm-hmm. And now you can have your phone right out there as long as you're not in a hand.
Not in a hand.
The other thing I have to talk to you about is address this issue of me getting a penalty for exposing my cards within 8 minutes of the tournament. No warning. What's going on, Travis?
So we use TDA rules. They have, let me put it this way. Hollywood had a very step-by-step how they do their rules. So they follow TDA, which says may result in a penalty for acting out of turn, all that fun stuff. They had a one hand, half round, full round penalty guideline. And then there's checking out a turn is the only thing that gets a warning, and it's one warning. So they've had this spreadsheet that they've had, and that's one thing that I eventually want to change. But it's like on the lower end of my 100 things that I wanted to get done because they were pretty consistent about doing it, right? So I believe you got a one-hand penalty, right?
Yeah, flicking from like the 8 or 7.
Yeah. Obviously, early stage poker, it's kind of not as important. But if everybody remembers back in 2012 when we first launched tournament poker at Hollywood, you used to get a full orbit, no ifs, ands, or buts for anything.
Whoa.
And that was my decision. And that was only because when I was dealing cash games and tournaments, I noticed that our Kansas City players were really bad about paying attention back then. Nobody was acting in turn. People were exposing their hands, changing the action of the hand. Just randomly, like 4 people after you, I'm a full ace queen.
Yeah.
I mean, and they were doing that stuff. And I was like, you guys can't be doing this. So we set out to kind of train poker because it was $65 tournament. Like we were treating it like it was a 10K. Like you were going to get a one orbit penalty regardless of what you did. So after about a year or two, I had left and went to Open K-Guard. And Vickers came in and kind of tweaked that to the 1 hand, 3 hand, or 1 hand, 5 hand, 10 hand deal, right? Or 1 hand, half orbit, full orbit, which I kind of like that. I also wouldn't mind implementing a warning system, but how do you track a warning system?
It's all on the dealer.
Dealers change every half hour.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's hard.
So I was trying to think of like the soccer, right? Red card, yellow card. Like, is there 2 chips we could give them? Is there 2 cut cards we could give them that have, Hollywood's logo on them or whatever? A yellow and a red. Still trying to weigh through how that can be implemented, where you can actually give a warning, know that the player only got 1 warning, and then start the 1 hand, half round, full round penalty. Because in late stage poker, it drives me nuts on the bubble when people are doing things that change the outcome of the tournament. first level, you're probably not intentionally exposing your cards at 108 minutes into your session, right?
Yeah, I'm practicing my flip.
Yeah, right. Teach you how to pitch. Yeah. Paper football.
Yeah, that's not my penalty card, sir. That's my meal ticket. For a big mixed game, guys, what do you think about the Chainsaw series of poker?
I like it.
Have you been out to play any of those events?
I haven't.
Do you like that it's going on the road a little bit?
I do. I honestly want to start only playing kind of stuff like that. Like, I want to keep poker as more of a hobby now. It made me a lot of money. It got me into my business. This is kind of just a niche project for me to help them rebuild. Who knows what it turns into. And I just kind of wanted to become more of a hobby, and like, I really enjoy playing mixed games. So I dabble a little bit on Phenom online because you can actually play mixed games online. And it's fun. It's fun to play Badoogie. It's fun to play Drama Hall and Archie 66. Games people have never even heard of.
Yeah, I've never heard of any
Archie
of those.
66 is 5-card triple draw.
5-card triple draw.
Holy
smokes.
So you're playing for a high hand, but you cannot win the hand if you don't make at least 6s or better. You also split the pot for an 8 or better. So it's got 2 qualifiers. So you could have somebody win with an 8 low, win the whole pot, because nobody made pocket 6s or better. They also have Archie 99, which is where that will happen more often, but where there could be somebody chasing the low, somebody chasing the high, and the high never makes it, but you're dealing 5 cards 3 times, you're going to make a pair bigger than 9s. But
was bomb pot ever a big deal until recently?
no, I honestly think that hurt poker a little bit.
Double board bomb pot?
I think it hurt poker for a year or two. I think now it's good because everybody's learning how to play them. But for a while, when people did not know how to play them, people were busting their whole rolls.
Oh,
Because imagine you grinded $300 to $500 to $1,000 buy-in up to 3 or 4K, and then you got it in with the nuts on the flop on one board and probably nut redraw on the other board, and you lose. Or the last double board bomb pot I played was actually at Harris, and I got it in with the nuts on both boards. There was another situation that happened there that wasn't the dealer's fault. There was 2 box cards that came out, and they made actually a bad ruling on it, and which they said they changed their rules, so whatever. I didn't go look at the handbook, so I didn't care. But I mean, I did care, but I went back the next day or whatever. But I ended up losing both boards. Both of those box cards paired the board, and they let them stay, which box cards are supposed to be treated like a foreign piece of paper in every other room I've ever played in the country, and used to be the rule there, but apparently they've changed it, supposedly. But they treated it as the box card got to stay, and both of those paired the board, and I had the nut flush on both boards, and yeah, I lost both boards.
Oh, devastating.
Yep.
A couple more things. I promise I'll let you go. But what are your criticisms of Club WPT?
I just don't like playing one table at a time.
So you can multi-table in the app.
Can you?
Yeah, but the app is pretty shitty, for lack of a better term. The interface is not great, and it doesn't seem to run well. I run Windows, but it doesn't seem to run very well. What about like the hand analysis? Have you looked into any of that?
Haven't.
They have a hand analysis, which is their way of making it legal. Do you know anything about the legalities of how those sites are coming prevalent now? Like, theirs is you buy hand analysis and they give you money. But hand analysis can't be used in like a GTO situation in tournament. It can only be used in cash game, which is kind of pointless to me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need hand analysis in cash game generally because that's such a unique situation most of the time outside of the ABC, but you can only use the hand analysis in cash. How are they getting away with buying the sweep coins and that kind of stuff? Do you know anything about, and is in the future, are they going to shut that down?
Every state is so different on what they rule here. So like Poker Bros, for an example, was an app that a lot of places were running these really large clubs on. I was actually playing on one of them, was actually crushing it, making an extra $1,500 to $2,000 a month for a while, playing tournaments on there. And then Missouri said this site's no longer legal because it's operating outside of the whatever sweeps coin stuff. Missouri has approved sweeps coins, type sites that at last I looked, right? But there was just a ruling this week from the Attorney General of Missouri that's now banning those gray area slot machines, right? So that's good for the casinos, right? It's bad for the gas station owners or wherever those slot machines were. It's probably good locally. It's probably good for the local economy not to be having grandma go to the gas station and blowing her whole whatever Social Security check every first of the month or whatever it is. But so ultimately, it's probably a good thing that they're banning that. But those gray area coins, those slot machines were considered skill, supposedly, is how they kind of got away with it, because it told you if you won the next spin. I don't know if you saw that. A lot of the slot machines, not all of them had these machines, but most of them had this particular machine that said, next spin's a winner, next spin's a loser. So now you're no longer gambling. You know the outcome.
Interesting.
But every degenerate gambler is going to spin to see if the next one after the next one is going to be the winner, right? So it's still gambling. I mean,
did you see those guys a couple weeks ago, Mission Impossible in from the bar? Dude, I'm sorry. You have to pull this up. These guys, I think it's in Kansas, they climbed down from the roof of the bar and stole these slot machines.
Oh, my goodness.
This bar, dude. If you just type in guys rappel from roof and steal slot machines, it should come up.
That's crazy. I mean, it's no different than the gray area that, we all know that Eric's getting away in, right?
Right,
like,
absolutely.
It's only a matter of time before somebody's like, hey, we either want to regulate this, we want to shut places like that down, or we want a piece of the pie, right? Like, they want to regulate and get a piece of the pie. So it's no different than Texas, right? Texas has fought the battle for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And they finally are starting to win some cases. So, I mean, Eric's kind of paving the way in that avenue. Whether or not he gets away with it is, to be determined. But I think for the right now, it seems like he's operating in enough of a gray area that he's okay.
Yeah, well, and I hope that if they ever come in and ask questions, they have some consideration about, essentially, at the end of the day, it's a charity.
Right.
And that's great.
Yep.
And it's just, he preaches the family aspect, and that's totally true. But you're right, it's cards, and it is a gray area.
Yeah, like in Kansas, obviously me and Eric talked about this. Like, I don't think you could ever or would have ever gotten away this long in Kansas, because they have a very strict prize consideration. It's 3 things. I forget the third thing. But you can't have 3. You can't have 2 of the 3 things. You can only have 1 of the 3, which is how free bar poker has always been very strict about how they operate on the Kansas side.
Repel into.
You try to find it.
Repel into bar. What about online integration from Hollywood? Is there any option down the road for that?
Like online poker?
Yeah, like if now with them coming in hot with the slot machines and gas stations, and maybe down the road they rule out these sweep coins, are they starting to look at possibly getting their own online system?
I mean, almost all casinos have their own online system now. Like, you got the PENN Play app where you can play slots on your phone.
But you can't play poker.
You can't play poker. I wouldn't be surprised if eventually they don't roll out some kind of... Yeah, my guess is it would be probably free, right? And you'd be winning some kind of promo stuff to get you into the casino, because I think that's how most of these apps are using their...
I texted it to you. Could you do something like a satellite, possibly, into a tournament?
I would imagine, depending on the state. That's for PENN and their lawyers, or Caesars and their lawyers, or whatever app. But I mean, I imagine depending on state laws, I'm sure there's opportunity there for free poker to win something.
Yeah, it just sucks right now because I still feel weird when I play online with the coin system, and I never know when they're going to come and say you can't get that back to your card.
Yep.
What's your most? Oh yeah, here we go. This is great.
You said this happened in Kansas too. This is awesome.
Yeah. So these guys climb down from the roof. One of them's got a tramp stamp right here, this guy.
He's lucky you didn't freaking land on that chair upside down the wrong way.
Hats off to them. How well thought out. Look at this guy. His ass crack and his tramp stamp.
Oh, my goodness.
So then I think the next scene is them busting into these slot machines that probably have $200 in them.
Oh, you'd be surprised.
Oh, yeah, you're probably right. There's always degens at the gas stations playing them.
I still can't believe that. Like, honestly, like, could you imagine just going to your local corner store gas station and just grinding a 2 or 3 machine selection all day because you're a slot machine person?
I'd wear a mask. I wouldn't want anyone to know I'm there.
Yeah.
Travis, what's your most memorable moment of playing poker or dealing?
Dealing, probably the most memorable moment was during the 50K Players Championship. I remember Oasis Ahmed and Sean Deeb and Scott Seaver. I'm trying to remember who else was on the table. I don't remember who did this, but somebody called Oasis Ahmed an inconsiderate fuck. but he didn't call it to his face. So he said to his buddy, that was also on the table, he's like, God, he slow rolled. What an inconsiderate fuck. Kind of like at that lower tone. And Oasis was like, floor, or dealer, call the floor. He just called me an inconsiderate fuck. So I got to call over the floor, Jack Effel, the TV cameras, all those people come over, and I have to literally say word for word. So this is what happened. He kind of, took it for a while to turn over his 7-card stud high-low hand, and scoop the pot or whatever. And then I think it was Deeb said to Seaver, or Seaver said to Deeb or whatever. You can probably look up the penalty on Poker News somewhere. But he literally says, he said, he slow rolled us. What an inconsiderate fuck. So I'm saying this on TV, the cameras, ESPN, all that. I was like, I guarantee they don't put that word in there, but I don't know if they ever did or not.
Oh, it was on ESPN?
It was back when they were live streaming in 2011, the live stream year, where they were live streaming everything. So they might have.
Do you have any more bucket list items that you really want to hit as far as like a tournament you might want to play?
I played the main event once, and I played the WPT 10K once. Actually went 0 for 2 that year, which sucked to be 20K down in 2 tournaments. But somehow I finished my tournament session up that year because I final tabled an MSBT in St. Louis and won like 33. So I was able to net positive the year. Because my wife was like, you've blown 20K in tournaments. Like, I'm like, yeah, it was an experience, bucket list. I want to eventually get back to that. Like, I don't want to miss the main event ever again in my life, which I know I'm probably going to miss it this year. I just don't have the time. But who knows? Never know if I might just say, I want to take 10 days off and go to Vegas to play the main. But that's really about it. I would really like to play the main event every year. I've got the deal. Main event feature tables live on ESPN, 50K. Like I've dealt the $1 million one drop, the 100K one drops, all those big buy-in stuff, right? I've dealt 2,000, 4,000 cash games. I've dealt, big games. So those kind of things are not on my bucket list anymore. So now it's just I eventually want to play at the highest level more than just a bucket list deal.
Do you value the tangibles at all in WSOP, like the rings and
Not really.
the bracelets?
I've never been able to put a volume in. I've always only played 1 or 2 tournaments a year, traveling-wise. I usually either go to Council Bluffs or go to St. Louis and play like 1 or 2 tournaments, and that's it for me for the year. I've concentrated too much on business and family to be able to just go grind. If I would have binked one of those early, like, I probably would have chased.
Yeah, you'd probably still be chasing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'd want to be up there with some of my buddies and trying to outtake Maurice because, Maurice is Maurice.
Are there any legends you've met that kind of impacted your career in poker? Like, I hate to throw this name out, but like Helmuth, has that ever been life-changing? Just a guy accomplished, or Negreanu or someone like that? Honestly,
the only time I felt like realer than real, like I was living in a dream, was I tapped into the 50K at one point. I remember Jen Harmon, Huck Seed, a couple other people were on the table, and Doyle freaking Brunson.
No way.
And Doyle, I had dealt to Doyle before, but Doyle looked fake that day. I don't know if you've ever been to a wax museum, but he looked fake that day. Like he was just this wax museum. And I just remember looking up at him and seeing like every stubble on his face and going, holy shit, that's the legend. I'm dealing to the legend in a $50,000 Players Championship.
The Texas Dog.
Yep. So that was probably the only surreal moment.
Even Jen Harmon, just in Huck Seed, I mean, those guys will probably never play on those levels again,
They still play the 50K every year.
That's true.
Well, Huck might not have until last year, but I think Jen plays it every year.
Some of those names are coming back to play casually. Even Ivy took so much time off.
Yeah, Ivy was another one. Like, his eyes never stop.
Yeah.
So he was probably the other. Him and Dolly were the two that were just like, holy smokes, I'm dealing to these people. I remember I busted Ivy on a 10K PLO, I think it was. No, it was what was it? No, it was a 10K horse. The guy could only hit one card to scoop. Ivy had him crushed, but if one card came, it gave him like the straight flush steel wheel. And it knocked him out. And it was like the 2 of clubs, and boom, there goes Ivy. And Dwan was on that table. Fabrice Solier won that event. I remember that. I think Sean Deeb was on that table. It was a stacked 10K. I just remember tapping in going, holy shit, I got a chance to deal Ivy another bracelet. Like, that would be awesome. Never dealt him one, so I was like, man, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, that's incredible, man. Well, I hope you catch some of my energy and how excited I am for you, dude, because you've done a lot of crazy stuff and a lot that I've just been able to learn about today. And I really, really appreciate you taking the time, man. And like I said, I talk to a lot of people in poker, and, you know, your name gets brought up so much, and nobody has a negative thing to say about you. And to see just, you know, going on the Bravo app and seeing everything you're doing for Hollywood is really amazing, man. And,
it's been fun. We're still having trouble getting that Monday night tournament off the ground for some reason, so we'll be switching that up soon, but we'll roll out something different. Obviously, Eric's got that low price one on Mondays, which is very attractive. So,
yeah, well, bright future, man, and hopefully we get that Run Good or the MSPT would be awesome, dude.
Yeah, we'll definitely be trying our hearts out. Even if I'm not there, I'll still be pushing for it eventually. You know what I mean? Like, I've been pushing for it since 2012. Like, we got to get it in here. So I'm glad that their upper management's there that actually cares about poker now.
Right on, dude. I appreciate it so much, man. You rock.
Thanks, man.
All right, take care, guys.
Appreciate it.